Hello everyone, this is Learn GraphQL and Strawberry for Python. So what I'm going to be doing is just looking very quickly at what is GraphQL. It's a query language for your API. Here we go. GraphQL is query language for APIs and a runtime for fulfilling those queries with your existing data. GraphQL provides a complete and understandable description of the data in your API, gives clients the power to ask for exactly what they need and nothing more, makes it easier to evolve APIs over time, and enables powerful developer tools. Sounds good. GraphQL, I believe, was developed by Facebook and released into the open source community in 2015. So, get many resources in a single request. GraphQL queries access not just the properties of one resource, but also smoothly follow references between them. While typical REST APIs require loading from multiple URLs, GraphQL APIs get all the data your app needs in a single request. Apps using GraphQL can be quick, even on slow mobile network connections. Describe what's possible with a type system. GraphQL APIs are organized in terms of types and fields, not endpoints. Access the full capabilities of your data from a single endpoint. GraphQL uses types to ensure apps only ask for what's possible and provide clear and helpful errors. Apps can use types to avoid writing manual parsing code. And this is GraphQL, which allows you to test your queries. You can add new fields and types to your GraphQL API without impacting existing queries. Aging fields can be deprecated and hidden from tools. By using a single evolving version, GraphQL APIs give apps continuous access to new features and encourage cleaner, more maintainable server code. Who's using GraphQL? Facebook's mobile apps have been powered by GraphQL since 2012. A GraphQL spec was open sourced in 2015, is now available in many environments and used by teams of all sizes. Facebook, GitHub, Pinterest, Intuit, Coursera, Shopify. So yeah, there we go. Right, that's a very, very quick overview of GraphQL. I don't want to talk about that too much because this video is mainly going to be showing me attempting to get up and running with Strawberry. Strawberry is a new GraphQL library for Python 3 inspired by data classes. So we've looked at what GraphQL is. Hopefully you know what Python 3 is. And data classes were introduced in Python 3.7. There's typical examples. So you create a data class with a name, and then you've got the key, and then there's the type that it needs to adhere to. So it's not loosely typed, it's strictly typed, you could say. So name is a string, unit price is a float, quantity is an int. If you've used Pydantic, you'll already also be on Fast API, you'll already be using data classes, whether you know it or not. I'm sure you do. So some sample code here, and what I'm going to do is, does that enlarge? No, it doesn't. I've quickly gone in and tested this tutorial, or it says view documentation, really, I would say it's a tutorial. So, well, it is a tutorial, it says there. Right, let's I mean, obviously you can all do this in your own time, but I just thought you might want to see me do it, and just if you just want to watch someone else do it and just be confident. Sometimes it's nice just to see that something actually works before you actually invest time in attempting it yourself. If you think, oh, I saw Python 360 do it, so now I'll go and have a go at it, at least you know that you'll spend 10 minutes of your time following your tutorial, you know that it works. Obviously most of them do, but over time sometimes you'll see a tutorial, you'll get 2/3 of the way through it, and then you find out it doesn't work. So then you think, oh, I wish I'd never bothered, I wish I'd learned something else instead. So I'm going to do it all from terminal. So it does work, I can promise you that, so keep watching. And if you're liking the video so far, don't forget to subscribe. Algos, It's just a nightmare, isn't it? With all the thumbs up, comments, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And comments are really good as well, I gather. So if you've got any thoughts. So what I did, I'm going to go back and do all this again slowly. So what I did was create something called schema.py. Then I started the Strawberry server, and then I ran my query. So before I did that, what I actually had to do was I had to I created a virtual environment. So I'll create a new one from scratch in a second. Then I activated it. Could use Poetry. I'm gradually trying to use Poetry all the time now because if you don't know, you think, oh, Poetry, how does that work? Well, it creates a TOML file, and the TOML file is a bit like a requirements.txt. The benefit of the TOML file is you can lock it on certain versions. You can probably do it requirements.txt, I don't know, never tried it. But the benefit of Poetry for me is it takes you straight into your virtual environment. You just type Poetry shell. You don't have to go source virtual_n/bin/activate, and then you find out you're in the wrong directory, and then you have to do cd and so on and so on. So right, let's I'm just going to stop this because there's no point. Right, there we go. So let's go cd. I'm going to do cd here. rm -rf strawberry demo. Right, gone. Right, let's start this tutorial from scratch now then. So I'm just going to put this over here on top, so hopefully that'll stay there. So create a new project and install Strawberry. So make directory Strawberry demo, cd to it, Python-m for modules, vn virtualenv. It's going to copy over all of the Python source that it needs. Takes a while, doesn't it? And then I'm going to do source virtual_n/bin/activate. And when I run that, you should see Strawberry demo's already up there. So here we go. Pip install Strawberry GraphQL. So we're installing the server that's actually going to run a bit like running a SQL server, I guess. I'm just going to move that up there somewhere while it runs. You can see what's installing. Starlet, UVcorn, some of your favorites if you're familiar with Fast API. Do you see that there? UVcorn, Starlet, GraphQL core, Python date util. There's something a bit unique about dates in here. We might get to that in a bit if I remember. Right, so now what we need to do is do something called define a schema. If you're familiar with normal databases have schemas. So with a database, you have the schema, and then you create the schema, and then you import the data. So similar here. Every GraphQL server uses a schema to define the structure of the data that clients can query. So this is basically it is just the framework or the skeleton before you, or the body before you put the clothes on it. In this example, we will create a server for querying a collection of books by title and author. Okay, so let's begin. I might just make that font just a fraction bigger. Is that better? Yeah. So let's do vim schema.py. And we'll do import. I didn't press I in time. Import typing. Import strawberry at strawberry dot type. class book. Title. So we're saying that the title's a string. The author will also be a string. And let's just scroll down a bit. Another type. So class query. So we've created a type for a book, and we're now creating a type for a query, if that makes sense. And books typing.list. So you're saying that books is a list of the book class. So you've got the class book, which is title and author. So you'll have a list of lots of title and author combos inside your books. This will create a GraphQL schema where clients will be able to execute a query named books that will return a list of 0 or more books. In fact, let's just let's exit that. I'm just going to be lazy and format it this way. Watch this. Yes, reformatted it. No, so notice how it's put the proper spacing in between. Right, okay. Now that we have our structure of your schema, we can define the data itself. So the schema was just a class for a book type, and it was a class for a query. Strawberry can work with any data source, for example, a database, a REST API, files, etc. For this tutorial, we will be using hard-coded data. Let's create a function that returns some books. So I'm just going to copy that function. Let's go back into schema. And there we go. So we've got the two types. We've got two Strawberry types, and then we've got a standard Python function, which is going to return an instance of the book class. And if we scroll up, the book class, or the book type, the class book, which is a Strawberry type, title, author. That's what we've put in here, title, author. Right. So far we've created two classes, and we've created one function that returns a book, which is a book is a class, or an instance of that class. So since Strawberry makes use of Python classes to create the schema, this means that we can also reuse them to create data objects. So define a resolver. Now we have a function. We now have a function that returns some books, but Strawberry doesn't know it should use it when executing a query. To fix this, we need to update our query to specify the resolver for our books. A resolver tells Strawberry how to fetch the data associated with a particular field. Okay, so when you run the query, you've got a variable called books. Well, a key. So it's a key is books, and then the value will actually be all that. So the type of the value that gets returned is a list of book instances, and that is equal to the Strawberry field having run a resolver And the resolver is actually calling the function of getBooks. Okay. Using Strawberry field allows us to specify a resolver for a particular field. Note, we didn't have to specify any resolver for the books fields in this. This is because Strawberry adds a default for each field, returning the value of that field. Right, so this needs to go back into the schema. And O, Control-Shift-V. So, I needed to delete the first query. This one, Strawberry type class query, Strawberry type class query. Yeah, we need to just delete these 3 lines. DD, 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 DD. Control Z, Shift Z. Right. Create our schema and run it. We have defined our data and query. Now that what we need to do is create a GraphQL schema and start the server. Okay, schema equals strawberry.schema. Query equals query. Okay, so we need to put this into the bottom of, let's go there and go there and then do that. So we're going to call that schema in a second from the command line. So let's do strawberry server schema run. And we get a nice quad 0 port 8000 / GraphQL endpoint with a little strawberry icon, which is very pleasant. Okay, so now if we go here, I'm going to minimize that now. We've got, let's just zoom in on that as well. That's very small. Hopefully that's nice and easy to see. So we've got books, title. Let's run. Okay. So I think I might have missed something here. Should we have had author as well? I think we should. Let me just go back and check if I've missed out author somewhere. Let me just go back here. So the great thing about this is your response, should we call it, looks, there we go, author. Your response looks very similar to your request or your query. So let's run that. There we go, let's prettify it. Prettify, no. Maybe it's already prettified. I think I've zoomed in a bit big there. There we go. So books, title, author, that's your query. And then your response is title and author from your book. So what we've done here is we've manually inserted some keys and values using this. In actual fact, this function getBooks would go off to a database or an API and actually get some real life information. Execute your first query. There we go. I've skipped ahead a bit, but yeah, what it's saying is you can remove, you can dynamically change this query. So let's just get rid of title and go back to author. Now you see there, take everything out. Doesn't like that. It's got autocomplete as well, which is quite nice. So that's all running from quad 0, which is my local machine, port 8000 / GraphQL. And there we go. That's all running on, if I do Control C, and it's closed that. If I bring it back up, we should find that it's no longer working. Yeah, there we get the error, look, failed to fetch GraphQL. And that's because I just closed the server. So that is very whistle-stop tour of Strawberry Rocks. I've just started reading about Schema Basics resolvers deployment, and let's just go to next steps. Schema Basics. These are the things to read next. So you've got queries, which is basically reading, mutation, which is writing. So that would be the R in CRUD. That would be the C or the U in CRUD. There you see, Schema Definition Language, SDL. There are two approaches to creating a schema for GraphQL Server. One is called Schema First, and the other is called Code First. Strawberry only supports Code First schemas. Before dividing into Code First, let's explain what Schema Definition Language actually is. Schema First works using the Schema Definition Language of GraphQL, which is included in the GraphQL spec. Here's an example of schema defined using the SDL. The schema defines all the types and relationships between them. With this, we enable client developers to see exactly what data is available and request a specific subset of that data. The exclamation mark means that the field is non-nullable. Notice that defining the schema doesn't specify how to get the data. That comes later when defining the resolvers. So the code first approach, I think this is probably quite important. As mentioned, Strawberry uses a code first approach. The previous schema would look like this in Strawberry. So yeah, if you've seen my recent Fast API videos, you've got your models. So effectively, you've got a model there, another model there. And it's enforcing typing, so it's saying that the title's got to be a string, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. As you can see, the code map's almost one-to-one with the schema, thanks to Python's type hints feature. So type hints, part of Python. Notice that here we are also not specifying how to fetch the data. Yep. GraphQL supports a few different types, scalar types, object types. So scalar is just like a string or an int. Object types is kind of, what's an object type? Most of the types defined in a GraphQL schema are object types. An object type contains a collection of fields, each of which can be either a scalar type or another object type. Object types can refer to each other, as we had in our schema earlier. So you see here, book there refers to book up there. So author, in the above schema, book has an author field and an author has a books field, yet we do not know how our data can be mapped to fulfill the structure of the promised schema. To achieve this, we introduce the concept of the resolver that provides some data to a field through a function. Continuing with this example of books and authors, resolvers can be defined to provide values to the fields. So this is all kind of hard-coded here, so obviously it gets a little bit more sophisticated than this, but def get author for book, root author, returns author. So when you run get author for book here, so the resolver is equal to response of this function, so it's equal to the author name, so it should be returning Michael Crichton. So what we will get back here, well, the class, so the title is a string, and the author, so the author should be Michael Crichton. Okay, so these functions provide Strawberry field with the ability to render data to the GraphQL query upon request and the backbone of all GraphQL APIs. The example trivial since the resolved data is entirely static. To be honest, in some ways that actually makes it harder to follow. However, when building more complex APIs, these resolvers can be written to map data from databases, e.g. making SQL queries using SQL Alchemy and other APIs, e.g. making HTTP requests using AIO HTTP. For more information and detail on different ways to write resolvers, see the resolvers section. So I'm starting to get a hang of it. You need a query, you need a resolver, and you need a schema. So these kind of three things work together. When your clients build queries to execute against your data graph, those queries match the shape of the object types you defined in your schema. Based on our example schema so far, a client can execute the following query, which requests both a list of all book titles and a list of all author names. So you do query for books and authors. Books, authors. Right. There's no point in me making a video on this one. I've not really learned it thoroughly even myself. So this is just kind of hopefully dipped a toe in the water. It's either put you off ever learning it, or it might hopefully have just given you some enthusiasm and inspiration to actually look at what is GraphQL and how GraphQL can be used with Python. So again, what is there that Python cannot do? There's lots more stuff. If you look down here, there's some authentication, data loaders, federation, Visual Studio Code, editor integration, async, type hints, AIO, HTTP integrations, fast API, pip install Strawberry, -GraphQL, square brackets, fast API. And if you've used fast API, you might start to recognize some of this code. App equals fast API, app don't include router. That's all new, but yeah. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've at least seen the tutorial page for Fast API. You've seen me create a schema. You've seen me start to understand a resolver. And yeah, you've seen me use GraphQL. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.